How many people watched on TV?
I call the Board of Aldermen meeting to order for the City of Warrenton on May 7, 2013. Would you all rise and face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance? Alderman Cornell will lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is approval of minutes. Item A, reapprove regular board meeting minutes from April 2nd, 2013.
Just out of curiosity, why are they being reapproved?
Because I screwed up on an objection to the previous minutes.
Oh, okay.
Alderman Cornell had misconstrued how he voted on it, and we needed to correct that. So
I'll make a motion to reapprove the regular board meeting minutes from April 2, 2013.
Second.
motion by Alderman Cornell, seconded by Alderman Dreyer to reapprove regular board meeting minutes from April 2nd, 2013. Roll call, please.
Alderman Dreyer.
I abstain, I wasn't here.
Alderman Flake.
Yes.
Alderman Cornell.
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly.
Yes.
Alderman Ock.
Abstain, I wasn't here.
Alderman Clark.
Yes.
Motion carried 4-0 with 2 abstentions. Item 3B, regular board meeting minutes from April 16, 2013.
Make a motion, we approve regular board meeting minutes for April the 16th, 2013.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Flake, seconded by Alderman Clark to approve the regular board meeting minutes from April 16, 2013. Roll call, please.
Alderman Flake.
Yes.
Alderman Cornell.
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly.
Yes.
Alderman Ock.
Yes.
Alderman Clark.
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 3C, executive session minutes from April 16, 2013.
Can I ask a question?
You may.
If we do have changes on them, obviously we can't discuss the changes here. I mean, it's just a question of how does that work?
Well, our counselor's not here tonight, so I can't answer that question.
I mean, they're real small things. They're not material, but it just occurred to me, how would we do that?
We'd almost have to go back into a executive session to make a correction, I would think, but
Okay.
I'm not sure. Do you know?
I think you would have to go into executive session.
Is there a correction that needs to be done?
No, it's not material.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Cornell, seconded by Alderman Dreyer to approve the executive session minutes from April 16, 2013. Roll call, please.
Alderman Cornell.
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly.
Yes.
Alderman Ock.
Yes.
Alderman Clark.
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer.
Yes.
Alderman Flake.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Is this where we pass them in, or we just, you get these back?
Yes, ma'am.
Item 4, hearing from the public, and at this time, we give the public an opportunity to come forward and ask the board or state your business, and we ask you allow it 5 minutes or less. So if anybody would like to address the board, please come forward at this time and state your name and the purpose of your business.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the board. My name is Bev Aylen, and I moved out to Warren County 13 years ago, and what a privilege it has been to live in Warren County. In fact, when I moved out here, I looked up to see who we were named after, what we were named after, whatever, and I was very excited to find out that we were named after Dr. Joseph Warren, who was one of the original Sons of Liberty. In fact, he actually launched Paul Revere off on his little ride that night, and at the Battle of Bunker Hill, he had already been commissioned as a general, but he I guess he hadn't received his commission yet, so he just really showed up to fight and volunteer. that day, but he lost his life. And if you've ever seen the famous painting of the Battle of Bunker Hill, that dead guy, that's Joseph Warren. So we have a claim to fame there. But anyway, I became interested in history. About 20 years ago, I saw things changing and didn't know what was going on in my country, and started studying a little bit of history in our founding and whatever. And I ran across the organization called National Center for Constitutional Studies, and one of their studies was the 5,000-year leap. And the book, The 5,000-Year Leap, was actually titled The 5,000-Year Leap because it was named because for 5,000 years, basically humankind did things the same way. They farmed the same way, they traveled the same way, they did medicine the same way. And then when our country was founded and our Constitution was drafted and put into place, and the common man had freedom that no other man had ever had on Earth before, within 200 years we were on the moon, because when man is released, and woman, was released to benefit from their property, whether it was real property or intellectual property, there was no end to what was able to come up with. And so we became the most prosperous, generous country in the world, and that was because we had the free market, we had foundational principles. In fact, when I hold a class, people will come to my class, and I don't know where what their standing is, if they're there to study for the Constitution. And I'll say now, basically, our Constitution was written based on 28 principles. Now, those are biblical principles, but you don't have to, God's principles work for everybody, the believer and the unbeliever. So for this study, for understanding the Constitution, you don't have to be a Christian. Now, you might want to check out his retirement plan because it's pretty good, but for this class and for anybody who wants to know about our Constitution, those biblical principles are timeless, and they've always worked and will always work. So the reason why I'm here tonight is I want to invite you. I'm not confrontational because as I've been watching government, federal government especially, because we're out of control, we're drowning in debt, we're bankrupt, and nobody wants to admit it. I lobby. I'm a registered lobbyist. Yes, I'm one of those, but I'm a volunteer. So at the state capitol, and I'm seeing the same things happening at the state capitol. We don't have an understanding that the proper roles, the role of civil government, your role, my state representative's role, my U.S. congressman roles, my U.S. senator's role is to protect my life, liberty, and property and pursuit of happiness. So those were the only reasons why we initiated civil government. But over the years, we've lost that. I had to go outside of the norm to get the learning and understanding of our history and Constitution that I have. And so I just really have some handouts here for you tonight, and would welcome you to come along and learn these things with me, because if the free market will work. We haven't had it for so long. I don't think any of us in this room, and some of us are a little bit older than some of you, but I don't think we've really had the free market in America for many, many years. We've been manipulating and organizing our economy for too many years, and it just doesn't work. So I'm really here to oppose the EEZ, and I've got some information on that, and I hope you're open-minded to take some information from other sources, because I remember back when I was selling real estate in the 70s and 80s, you use other people's money, and you had the Keynesian approach to economics, and I had a PowerPoint plan, and I bought investment property, and boy, I tell you what, if that plan would have worked, I would have been sitting on a pile of money now. So everything looks good if everything works like it's supposed to, whether the tax credits come in and this and that and the other, but things don't always work out as they do in the polished PowerPoints and such. And also on the bottom of I have a stack for each of you. It's actually the Missouri Constitution and our federal Constitution. Notice how small it is. That's how small the federal government is supposed to be. And our state Constitution, because everything's really supposed to happen at the local level. And now things are really topsy-turvy, and we're in a mess. And inside the pocket Constitution is the 28 principles that I talked about. So please read that. And I think you can get excited, too, about why we were the freest, most generous, most prosperous country in the world. And we've lost that. We've already dropped, and maybe let's reclaim that, okay? And there's also some information in there from the Show Me Institute about the EEZs, and also an invitation. Because you're an elected, you're a public office holder. The constitutional sheriffs and
Bill,
I'm not nervous.
I'm going to cut you off
Okay.
times. We welcome you to drop those off at each alderman, and we're going to move on and do the business of the city of Warrenton.
Okay. Well, let me tell you what. Right. I had them all collated, so nice. For you. want to take too much more time. I'll dump them off here and let you figure out.
Are you trusting us that John? You probably should start the other end of the
Yeah, sorry.
Bad thing,
Thank you
but-
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Please come forward and state your name at this time.
Hi, my name is Linda Scott, and I am the president of the Warrenton High School Band Boosters, and I am here to ask for an extended noise permit for the beer garden and the music at night while we're cleaning up the fairgrounds. That is why I'm here.
Okay, I think that's on our agenda. We're going to discuss that in
Okay.
more detail down the road. So
right.
we may have you come back and
Okay.
give us more input at that time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to address the board? We'll extend the same courtesy to the Board of Aldermen. Any of the board members that would like to address the public or make any comments, please do so at this time. We'll start with Alderman Clark on your end. Anything?
Nothing. No,
Alderman Knopf?
yes, the people who live at the 300 block of McKinley, the families have asked that the city could put up an additional children playing sign. There currently is one as you head north, but not south. And it's a block where within a very tight area, there's probably 17 kids who live in there, and they're playing in the street. There's no sidewalks or curbs or anything. It's an older section of town. And they've asked that if the city could put up an additional children playing sign.
I think there's an item on our agenda with another
Right,
area.
yes.
And, let's see where we go with that, and
Okay.
maybe we can do the same thing with McKinley.
Okay. That's all?
That's it?
That's it.
Well, let me get my notes out now.
I was gonna say, I'm surprised. All right, I have a few things. I can put on my note cards though, so we'll make it
Fine.
quicker. How's that? I just wanted to kind of discuss some of the things that has occurred since the last meeting as far as what I've been doing with the city. And I spent the entire day of April 19th, that Friday, with Brad Boozy Cruz and Guy Gevers. And I want to thank you, Brad. I know Guy isn't here today, but it truly was very beneficial for me. I would recommend that anybody who does not have a good understanding of what those two departments do, to spend time with them if they let you. I know I was a royal pain that day, but I learned a lot, including the bar screen comments. So a lot of things have come up from that, things that I would like to address future coming up, some safety issues that freaked me out a little bit. Not yours, Brad, but Guy has some pretty hazardous areas for his employees. But I think it was very beneficial, and I would just highly recommend that other people take some time to get out and see what these people are doing. They're working very hard, and right now the grass is absolutely insane. So, thanks, Brad. And then, in addition to that, I wanted to kind of report in. We had our first town hall meeting that I promised when I was elected for Ward 1, but opened it up to anybody who wanted to come. Unfortunately, I could only afford so many signs, so those signs were in Ward 1, but anybody's welcome. Some of the issues that came up, I think we all know are going to be the contracts, so we did discuss that in great detail. I think there was some good clarification that went on, and I want to make sure everybody who listens in on Channel 3 or whatever understands the hiring process. It was the understanding of the individuals there that the city administrator does the hiring and firing, and that's truly not the case, that this Board of Aldermen are the ones who vote on all hiring and firing decisions, and I think the public needs to realize that, because we're the ones that should be held accountable for those decisions. Other issues that came up that I think in the future we need to address are the sidewalks, both new ones and replacing old ones that are broke. We had some road issues discussed. Interesting enough, the speed limit. We had a lot of people that were concerned about the speed limit and wanted that increased, but I don't think that's going to happen, because you increase it and then we just keep increasing our speed. So the parks was an issue. They wanted to see if we'd get some more fish in our pond, and snow removal was an issue as well. And then we had some trouble with some trespassing. So I wanted to thank Chief. He's not here today because he's still on vacation, but he did attend and gave some really good feedback and input on what the city police department's doing. And then he took quite a few notes as far as what we could do to improve some of the things that were brought up. Also discussed chlorine tasting in our water, and the surrounds on our trash dumps. So we have some things that our cities, and the reason I mention all these here at this meeting, I'm not going to do this every month, But I wanted to bring those up so everybody understood that this was a place and time that the general population could bring their concerns to the board in one setting. So I thought it was good. All right, other than that, a couple things that have gone on. We've brought up some concerns about the yard waste refuge, so we're going to work on a solution to that. Guy is working on something for us right now because those of us who aren't in town till after hours and on the weekends have a difficult time dropping off our yard waste. So we'll be bringing that up. And another sign, which you're going to see here from one of our residents. And then finally, I thought the employee appreciation lunch was very nice. I want to thank you guys for inviting us on the boards, those of us that showed up. I thought it was a really good opportunity for us to thank the employees for all their hard work, even though it was a really cruddy day. And we didn't have flowers on the table, Brad, but it was very nice. It was a good way to thank the city employees, so.
Alderman Cornell.
It appears all the person Casserly is going to overcome me is the
That's
word
my
count.
goal.
Word count. So I've got nothing. She wins.
All right. Alderman Flake.
Well, I just say that the employee luncheon went real well and had a good turnout and everything there, and I'm sure the employees really appreciated that. Also, I'd like to say with all the rain, we know the grass is out of control, but riding around town, you can see some yards that are getting up pretty high, and if people just address that as the weather permits, it'll save a trip for the ordinance violation and then pay you a visit.
I think that's a problem right now. Alderman Dreyer? Nothing? You guys are easy. I'm going to move on to the item 6, Mayor's report. I'll just reiterate what the rest of the board was saying about the employee luncheon or Employee Appreciation Day. Thanks to the people that organized it. I thought you did a great job. Mother Nature didn't cooperate with us very well that day, but we found a good indoor place to host lunch, and I appreciate it, and appreciate the board members that were free and able to participate and be involved that day. So I thought it went very well. One item of bad news that I'll share with the public. Mr. Giebers isn't here right now because we got a water main break out on Highway 47 North at the intersection of McGee Street and 47 near First State Community Bank. The guys are out there working on it as we speak. Water shut off in that area. Most likely there will be a boil order instituted tomorrow morning once we find out what the radius is and where we can shut the water off and when it's safe to turn it back on. So might pass that along to the general public. The other thing I want to share with the public is the proposed enhanced enterprise zone is having a public hearing. It's scheduled for May 23rd, 2013 at 11 a.m. The hearing will be at the County Administration Building, 101 Mockingbird Lane, Suite 300. An opportunity for people that either are in favor or oppose the hearing, a good opportunity for you to voice your opinion at that public session.
Could you give the date again?
Pardon me?
Could you give the date one more time?
Yes, May 23rd, 11 a.m.
Okay.
A couple other just public information agenda. The park board will meet on May 13th here at City Hall at 6:30 to do normal park business. Tourism Committee has a meeting scheduled for May 14th, 2013 at 8 a.m. here at City Hall. And that's all I've got. So with that, I'm going to move on down to make my annual appointments. I know some of you wonder, how I make these appointments. And my theory and strategy is I try to move people around from year to year and let everybody have some flavor of what's going on with different committees and boards within the city. So at this time, I want to make my appointments to the Ways and Means Committee. The chairman of that committee will be Gary Ock. The members will be John Cornell and Fred Flake. The Police and Personnel Committee, I'll make my chairman John Clark, committee member Gary Ock, Jim Dreyer. Water, Trash, and Sewer, committee chairman Fred Flake, members Karen Castley, Gary Ock. Street and Sidewalk and Streetlights, John Cornell, Chairman, Jim Dryer, Committee Member, Fred Flake, Committee Member. Recreation, Chairman, Jim Dryer, Committee Member, Karen Casserly, John Clark. City Grounds and Cemetery, Karen Casserly, Chairman, John Clark, Committee Member, John Cornell, Committee Member. My representative appointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission will be Karen Casserly. Representing to the Park Board will be Fred Flake. Representative to the IDA will be John Clark. Representative to Tourism, John Cornell. Any questions on any of that? With that, I'm going to move on to item 7, special permission for excessive noise for a mud bog by the Warrenton High School Band. And now, Mrs. Scott, would you like to come back and address us? Tell us what's going on there.
I am putting on a mud bog for the Warrenton High School Band. It took me about 3 months to try to get a permission to do this once a year for the band as a major fundraiser, since it costs $9,000 to do sheet music and choreography for our band to keep competing and winning trophies. So we would like to use this once a year as our, like I said, major event for the fundraisers. But I need an extended noise permit just in case the beer garden and the music's a little bit too much while the fairground's being cleaned up. That's the only reason I'm asking.
And I noticed 8 a.m. to 12, that's a long day.
Yeah, we were actually done with the mud bog by 7:30 last year. That was the
Okay.
first one I put on last year.
So the extra time is for
We're
cleanup?
cleaning up and people lingering around at the beer garden.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
absolutely.
What does an extended permit extend? I mean, is it typically closed at 8? Is that when you have to apply for a permit? Or what triggers the request, I
Oh,
guess?
for the extension?
I think
Right.
it stops at 10.
10.
But, so like 10 to 12 gives you like 2 more hours to shut them down, I think is what it is.
So the approval basically is you want to go from 10 to 12 if necessary.
If necessary. Hopefully not, but just in case, because you know how people are in the beer garden. They like to linger.
And this has nothing to do with the Fair Board. This is you
The
are
beer
leasing-
garden is the Fair Board's thing.
Okay,
We don't have nothing to do with the beer garden.
okay.
But I'm just
my
trying to
next
cover it just in case. You know what I mean?
All right. So the Fair Board is running the beer gardens as a
And the
moneymaker?
concession stand, yes, as their moneymaker.
As their moneymaker.
Right. We're
Okay.
doing the gates, the mud bugs, silent auction, the T-shirt sales, 50/50, and the vehicle show.
Okay. I was curious about that. I thought, now, wait a minute, we got high school students, we're doing this for the band. And
No,
we're-
the beer
we're
garden
in
is all on the
business?
Fair Board.
Darn.
We have nothing to do with alcohol.
I understand. Any questions?
Do they intend to have any kind of band or music or anything?
We are
there?
having a karaoke contest.
And that will be during the day?
That's,
Or did-
yes, that is during the day.
Yeah, I remember last year it was over fairly early.
Yeah, we had 41 trucks. It was a great turnout. But it went so smooth that we were able to be done by like 7:30, and the guys were done actually off the equipment, I think, by like 10 o'clock at night, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, they were off the equipment because they already had all the dirt put back and everything.
What about the liability for the mud bog?
We have insurance.
You all take care of
We
that?
are covered, yes. We have insurance. I also have the police walking through once an hour doing a security check because of the alcohol and because of, anything can happen. The ambulance and the fire department will be on standby the whole time at the pit area.
Make a motion to approve the request for extension of time from May 11th, 2013 until 12 midnight for the Mud Bog Vehicle Show fundraiser for Warrenton High School Band.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Cornell, seconded by Alderman Ock to approve the special permission for excessive noise for a mud bog by the Warrenton High School Band on May 11th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Alderperson Casterly?
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Clark,
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer,
Yes.
Alderman Flake,
Yes.
Alderman Cornell.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you.
Mayor, if we could go back, we need to motion
Oh.
to approve the appointments.
We need a motion on that?
Make a motion to approve the mayor's appointments to committees.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Cornell, seconded by Alderman Flake to approve the appointments by the mayor for committees. Roll call, please.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Clark,
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer,
Yes.
Alderman Flake,
Yes.
Alderman Cornell,
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly.
Yes.
Carried 6-0. I'm in a hurry, see, I don't have time to do that. I'm on item 8, application for park alcohol beverage permit, Christina Slaughter.
Good evening.
Good
Evening.
Some time ago, I guess maybe about a month or so ago, I applied for an alcohol, well, I went to the Parks and Recreation to do, because I've rented, or I've gotten the pavilion there before in the past for a reunion, family reunion celebration. And so I knew that I was having this event with me and my husband. We'll be married 25 years. And we have 3 wonderful children, and one of them is going to be catering the event, actually. He's a chef. But my main goal is that I will have probably about 50 people. I think it's kind of dwindling because the other organization I'm with is having a golf tournament that same day. So there might not be as much people as I originally anticipated. But the event will be at 4 o'clock. I'm having an ordained minister come in. She's a relative of mine. And then probably eats and drinks about 5 o'clock. So just have a time period of what I'm talking about there. And it's at the Binkley Woods Pavilion there, on Pavilion 1. We're going to do the ceremony at the lake and the dock. I didn't know if that was an issue, but that was my goal. And
What about your hours? That's pretty, 9 to 6, is that?
set up, those could probably be, now that I've got the time of 4 o'clock, I was thinking it was going to be at noon, but I think we've got some conflict of my husband's work hour schedules. He just recently went to 3rd shift, so he's going to need to sleep before that. So I could probably expand or narrow that down to, say, 1
I think the
to.
concern is more in the evening,
Oh.
because you say 6 o'clock, and if you're having,
Oh, then of course, then that'll have to be expanded then
Right.
the other way,
yeah.
I guess. Yeah,
Doesn't give you
sorry.
much time, no drinks pop open in that frame of time.
Right, sorry for the confusion. So would I need to amend that schedule at the,
What would you want to amend it to?
probably set up, okay, so we're doing 4, I'd say probably 2 to 10.
Pretty dark in the park at 10.
Is it?
It closes at
I was
at
wondering.
dark. Yeah, I think it closes at
2
dusk.
to, what is that,
Oh,
June?
it closes it.
I think it closes at dusk,
June
doesn't it, Frank?
15.
At what time?
Park closes at dusk,
At dusk.
Which, what time is dusk? In
And June.
Middle of June,
8,
8:39?
8:39, somewhere around there. 'Cause
Can we do
there's-
it to
no,
dusk?
there's- The only light is up at the bathroom.
What if we amended it to noon to dusk?
I think that would work. The invitation just went out yesterday, so
2 to dusk.
I'll have to make it work.
Well,
What
but
we're
they'll be
doing
there
now,
before, you said,
noon
for
to
the
dusk?
ceremony.
Yes.
So no matter what your setup time, then you won't be there.
Right.
So, and they have to be going at dusk anyway, because the park closes.
Closes it, yeah,
So-
okay. Yep.
Any other questions for Mrs. Slaughter?
Make a motion to approve the application for park alcohol beverage permit for Christina Slaughter for June 15th, 2013, for the hours of 12 noon to dusk.
Second?
Motion by Alderman Cornell, seconded by Alderman Clark with the second,
Yes.
to approve the application for park alcohol beverage permit for Christina Slaughter for June 15, 2013, with the amended hours was 12 o'clock to dusk. Roll call, please.
Alderman Clark,
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer,
Yes.
Alderman Flake,
Yes.
Alderman Cornell,
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly,
Yes, congratulations.
Alderman Ock.
Yes. Congratulations to
I
you.
have one more question, can I ask?
Sure.
When we were scoping out the park the other day, there was like a bad word on one of the poles. Is that going to be, can we see about, I can try to clean it, but I didn't know.
Yeah, if you'll give us information, what pole and where, we'll make sure we,
I will.
yeah, maybe.
I
leave
guess it
that-
wouldn't hurt us to walk around and look at all the poles.
It's not a- I just, you know.
Battle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just out of,
Never-ending battle.
yeah, and hope we'll clean it now and then hope it's not there when you get
Alderman Ock, I didn't get your vote, and Alderman Clark.
Oh, yes.
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 Okay, motion carried 6-0. Thank you.
I just want to point out that I'm letting John make all the motions, seems how he was deprived of talking
Right,
earlier.
right.
He's got to get his words in. Item number 9, request for children at play signs. Who wants to address that?
I'll address it. This was sent to my attention, and this is for the Dry Fork Crossing stretch of property that goes between Dry Fork and Highway 47. It's become a little cutoff for people that want to avoid the intersection at Dry Fork and 47. We have a lot of children playing on that area, so we were hoping to put signs up on either side to remind people to slow down. Also asked Chief if they could maybe do a little more patrolling in that area as well.
And this would be just a hazard or warning sign, doesn't affect the speed limit, anything like that?
Correct. Correct.
And then Alderman Ock also had the 300 block of McKinley?
Yeah, the 300 block of McKinley.
Also.
Let's add those two together, and my suggestion would be, let's talk to the chief of police, have him investigate both of those areas, take a look at them, come back with a recommendation to the board. Is that fine with everyone?
That's what I'd like to see done. Okay,
You
that's
prefer
fine.
that too? Okay,
You're good.
all right, we'll ask Chief Hottishell to investigate both those issues and come back with a recommendation to the board.
Let me just make clear, my issue isn't with the kids playing in the street, because kids will play in the street, and this is an area with no sidewalks, so
It's
Okay.
the
The idea is not to
adequately warn the
just
motorists.
warn the
Warn
public
voters.
as they go through.
Right.
Understood. Item 10, request for parking on one side of Dryden Street from Oak Street to the cul-de-sac. William Lindstrom, are you here? Tell us what's going on there.
Well, from Oak Street north to the cul-de-sac, and they can park on either side of the street. And with the emergency equipment not being able to get through there, I have personally talked to Chief Allenby of the fire department, and he said, yes, that would be definitely a problem there. He said one side or the other to pick, and I was just saying, on the piece of paper, the petition I wrote up, the western side of the Dryden Street, as you're traveling north.
I had the opportunity to drive through your neighborhood over the weekend because of your request, and I understand your plight. There's definitely a problem there.
Yeah, it's only 24 foot from the curb, well.
That's what I was going to say, those streets are old enough that they're not up to what we would require today. Plus, that subdivision, when it was built, those lots are all relatively small, and they were probably built for families that had one car. And now I see families got 2 and 3 cars,
Yes.
and it's a problem. But it's also a problem for the city, because how do you decide which side of the street to park on and what not to park on? I don't know the answer. You're going to make 50% of the people mad,
Right.
50% of them happy. So I guess my suggestion to the board, and see if they agree, I think we probably need to have the chief take a look at that area and maybe do a survey of all the residents that live on that street and see what their feelings on it is. I don't think we're prepared to make a decision on that and say, yes, this is what we want to do. Comments from the board?
No, I would agree with you. I think the police chief should look at it, and if there's, questions of emergency equipment, I'm sure he'll contact the fire department to make sure that they have an issue with it too. And I think historically, at least when I was on the board before, is we kind of let the citizens try to work out which side of the street, and if that couldn't be done, then the board would make a decision. So I'm sure part of the petition or part of interviewing people will help determine that.
Okay.
Alderman Clark?
I agree. I think let the chief take a look at it and come back with a recommendation.
Alderman Chadwick?
I agree.
Alderman Cornell?
He's fine.
Alderman Flake?
Same thing.
Alderman Dreyer? Okay, we'll,
As a note, on the eastern side of Dryden Street, there is the fire mains, and there's one at the corner, and then one, it's probably about 200 feet.
all on the
That's-
east side.
That's on the eastern portion. So I
What you
think
wouldn't necessarily want to block.
Yeah, you wouldn't
No,
want
we
to.
don't want to
Can we-
block that.
that might-
The only, on this issue and the previous one, can we ask that, not only that the chief look into that, but to report back at the next board meeting, so that they have some kind of idea of a time frame of
Yeah,
when
no,
we
I
will.
think that's fair. So, well, we understand your problem, and when I drove through there, I thought, you know, if the fire truck needed to get through here, he couldn't make it
Right.
without moving some cars. And so it's, yeah, you have a legitimate concern. We just don't know what the legitimate solution is.
Right.
So we'll work on it, though. Fair enough?
All right, so
Okay.
it'll be tabled to the next.
To the next meeting.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question. Is typically when we put signs in the community, that's not needed to go through the budget process, I assume the cost of signs is built into the budget somewhere to add signs throughout the year, so it wouldn't be something, if approved, we'd have to wait till the new budget year. So it's something we can act on as soon as decision's made.
Okay,
Got a
thank you.
nice
Thank you.
supply of them at the Butler Supply.
Do we?
Yes.
Good.
I saw them.
Item number 11, request change to city ordinance regarding the motorized bicycle and scooter. Jason DeRee. Mr. DeRee. What's going on?
I have a 49cc scooter. When I bought it, it's because I was getting 200 miles to the gallon, which is great when I filled up my SUV today at 367. That being said, my little moped's 49 cc's. In Missouri, the state of Missouri does not require license or registration or license plate of anything below 50 cc's. Warrenton has an ordinance that if it's above 35 cc's, it has to be licensed. The problem there is Missouri will not issue that license plate. And so my vehicle, my primary vehicle around town, which goes about 30 miles an hour, which is great for the speed limit here, is parked. And so I'm spending tons of money in gas. And I've labeled myself the scootering insurance man because I kind of drive around, I'd like to drive around with a little orange moped. And girls think it's cute, guys think it's funny. So it's great for business, but it's better in my pocketbook. And so there's a discrepancy there between Missouri not licensing it and Warrenton requiring it. So I'd like to get that changed to where we match the state law, and anything below 50 cc's doesn't need to be registered or licensed.
Are you required to wear a helmet on a 35 or 40?
Now that, I'm not 100% sure. I have two helmets, actually, but I don't know if they require the helmet. I think it's dumb not to wear it, but I don't care if you put that in the law saying you have to wear the helmet, but I have one.
Well, Mr. Dury, we were talking, your request is for the ability to register, or that we not require to register.
Correct,
but-
and match the Missouri law.
But motorized bicycles and motorized scooters are also not allowed on city streets. Were you aware of that?
I was not. So are they allowed on the sidewalks?
No.
So in
Section-
Warrenton, they're not allowed anywhere then?
Correct, and
On private property or your yard or whatever, but not on the street.
it actually states on section 310.045 of the city code, except for disabled person, no person shall ride on or operate a motorized bicycle or motorized scooter upon any street, highway, roadway, or sidewalk within the city or on or in any property owned by the city. So not only do you have a registration issue, you actually have an issue with it even being allowed on the city streets.
Is there a reason why, if we could change the law and for Warrenton to be able to license it, I'd be okay with that too. I just want to be able to use my vehicle.
Right.
Let me see if I follow you. The state of Missouri will not let you have a license.
License on anything less than 50 cc's.
So you're not required to license that.
And when I got it, it came with a license plate stating that has all that information on there. You're not required to have a license in the state of Missouri.
And I might lean on Alderman Flake and Alderman Clark on how this ordinance came about. Was it something to do with the pocket scooters years ago, and
Yeah.
we were having trouble with them?
Yeah.
You know what a pocket scooter is? The
Something
little
small
fold-up?
that folds up in the back of your
Yeah.
trunk,
Yeah.
which actually is a pretty good business plan. I think
No,
you
I
guys to a
think
bar
these-
and drive them home.
I think these were more the little, the miniature motorcycles that these were, that you don't even have to fold up to put in your trunk, is what my understanding was.
There was a lot of kids riding those, and they were riding them in their yards, and all of a sudden they got out into the street, and there were some close calls, and that's what called for us to take some action at that time, because there was some near people getting close to being run over. And we don't want anybody to get hurt.
I understand that. So is there a way we can get the law to where we can be able to get it licensed? Or can we do something so it's not just sitting in the garage until I move out of Warrenton?
Don't move out of Warrenton. Don't move out of Warrenton.
I mean, I think matching the state law, to me, isn't an issue. The discussion about streets and controlling what is allowed on the streets is something maybe the police department needs to take a look at to see what issues there are as the times change or things different. I mean, I don't see how we can, in the city ordinance, prohibit you or force you to do something that the state won't allow you to do anyway. Because what it sounds like to me is even if you went to the state to get the license, they'd say, we don't do this. So you're kind of stuck. So we need to really adjust that part of the ordinance.
That's the easy part.
Yeah, that's the easy part. The safety issue is something different. So I think, I don't know if the police committee needs to discuss it or the streets committee.
I have a suggestion.
Go.
I was going to say vehicles that are less than 400 pounds are not allowed on the interstate. And pocket bikes aren't very heavy, like 50, 100 pounds, something along those lines. They're going to get you somewhere. These 49cc scooters are about 220 pounds. If you want to go around a weight limit of the actual vehicle without passengers, it might be easier for you to get something like that. Because you're not going to have little kids driving a 49cc scooter, which is a 2-passenger vehicle anyway.
My inclination would be it needs to be discussed with the police chief. I hate to table everything, the last 3 issues for the police chief and the city attorney.
Yeah, because we need to be. I completely agree with your need, and I understand that. But we need to be very careful in that we don't open this up into a whole bigger problem with the community of things that we don't want on the roads from a safety standpoint. So I think I like your idea of weight. I think maybe some more research on that issue. You know, both maybe a range of weight, because I don't want to see a whole bunch of little motorcycles zooming through people's yards and stuff again, and we've had that.
Is it because I look at bicycles, regular bicycles are allowed on the road. People drive them on the roads all the time. They stop at stoplights, and it's the same thing, except they're using manpower versus the...
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of municipalities, certainly in St. Louis County, that allow these type of bikes on the road. I mean, when I'm in there, I see them all the time. So there's got to be some draft ordinances from other cities that we could get through the municipal league and see what their controls are as to how they set up their standards. Because obviously, it's allowed in a lot of places. So
most of Missouri.
There might be a way to license them, and then you have to be a licensed driver, operator.
that might be it.
You do have to have a valid driver's license to operate them.
So I have to agree that we need to let the chief of police and the city attorney take a look at it and come back with what we can do.
Out of curiosity, do you carry liability insurance?
I do. It's just liability, not full coverage, just liability. The scooter itself is only worth like $800.
Right.
But that would be an issue as far as the vehicle.
Well, what I'm hearing here, first of all, the chief is not going to take any more vacations.
Yeah, he's not allowed to.
He's gone, give him all these assignments and duties. But we would like for him and our counselor to look into it, look at our ordinance, and see if they would come back and make us a recommendation of if it can be changed, or we can open up another can of worms if we change it. So we're not ruling it out. We need to look at it and research a little more detail.
Yeah, I think we need more detail on different types of bikes and motorized vehicles, so we have more information on that. Never rode one. So I just think we need to gather a lot of that information.
And this is my first time coming to something like this. You guys do this monthly? I come back next month, or
twice a month?
Twice a month,
First and third Tuesday of every month.
So would there be answers like in 2 weeks down the road we're looking at, or come back next month? Or
Hopefully.
Depends on how quick they get their research done, what they come back to us with.
Well, they can ask me.
Very possibly.
Well, and that's what I was going to
we
say.
can
If
bring
you
that up.
have additional information that you want to forward, you can forward it to the
I
city.
submitted everything I think I had.
But I was thinking as far as we've brought some other things up, so maybe different types of vehicles that you know about, different types of scooters and motorized things. If you want to add more information, you can send it to the chief. If you have one that you want to, while we're doing our research.
Is it possible to maybe see any kind of minutes that led up to that, the passage of that, to see what the thought process was and what the issues were that we were trying to address when that was, it looks like it was passed in 2006, maybe?
I don't remember.
04? 04.
I think John's point is interesting. If you have a vehicle and the person driving has required to have a Missouri driver's license, you certainly would eliminate a significant amount of people, kids particularly, using these vehicles on the road that shouldn't be using them on the road. If that's your control mechanism, it's a pretty solid control mechanism, I would think.
I'm just wanting to make sure we don't end up with a whole bunch of motorcycles driving around in places and tearing things up. That's all. I just want to get that information as to the sizes, if there's a way
They
that
could
we
lose
can
their driver's license if they do stuff illegal.
Yep, trespassing.
Yeah, but I mean, you could do that with.
No, that's what I'm saying. There are ordinances to address, if they're driving through people's yard, you don't have to outlaw the vehicle. There's trespassing.
We probably have current ordinances to cover that kind of stuff.
Right,
anyways.
the behavior.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you in 2 weeks, maybe?
What?
See you in 2 weeks, maybe?
I'm okay with that.
All right.
Come back
Have
and,
your people call my people.
Thank you.
thank you. I'm on item 12 of the agenda, and I have a request from Ellen Reed from Turning Point. Good evening.
Hi. So I am Ellen Reed. I'm the executive director at Turning Point, and I don't have the extensive history of the various funding streams that have come through the city to Turning Point, but I've tried to piece it together. And I gave you information on sort of who we are and what we do. We are a domestic violence and sexual assault program. We have a shelter. I believe we used to have a contract with the city of a service grant, and we used to be the sub-grantee of an emergency shelter grant with the city. And I believe one was about $12,000 and one was about $9,000. And at some point, the grant ended. That has, at the state level, shifted to another organization, another way to fund. But the service grant, this is just the way I understand it, was dropped in favor of implementing the municipal court fees for domestic violence charges. The issue is that brings us in about $5,000 a year, as opposed to where we were at maybe $21,000. And so we're asking for consideration of coming in as a service grantee again, and getting some support from the city for this valuable service that we provide. We have a budget of about $400,000 a year, and it's one of the pieces of data that we know is that of those, one of our programs is called the Aftercare program. So for women who have gone through the shelter and are brought into our Aftercare program, which is a financial literacy type program and also has some direct financial components to it, of those who had been in the program for at least a year, who turned over a year, in 2012 there were 10 of them, and none of them are financially dependent on an abuser anymore. So we're making some significant strides for the impact on the lives of the women who come to see us. And we would like to ask for your support again.
I mean, it's a great program, a great need in the community. I'm trying to go back to some of the old discussions from years ago. There was questions like, are we serving people in the city limits of Warrenton as opposed to, and so that was always affirmed verbally as opposed to getting some kind of counts. And there was, I mean, I know the municipal courts funded it, but wasn't there also funding through the county, which was probably a little larger?
We have marriage and divorce fees, which all of the counties can choose to do, so it's not a line item budget.
Yeah, I don't recall the city funding it to the tune of 22,000.
Well, part of that was a grant, but I,
9,000 of that was a pass-through grant.
Okay.
But there was at one point $12,000 out of the general fund budget that was going to Turning Point. At the time that we instituted the $2 per court case, which is that number that you were discussing, about $6,200 a year, the board chose to reduce that funding to just what came through the court. So as of last year, it was purely through the court side of the system.
So the funding in the court, the funding basically is in the budget, but it's only for an estimate on the court proceeds? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And it doesn't really come through our budget. It's a part of the court cost.
Okay.
So it goes directly from the court to Turning Point every month.
right, it's a special fee.
A couple things I had, Ellen.
Yeah.
Your facility is not located within the corporate limits of the city
That's correct.
on there. And who do you serve?
About 31% of the women that we shelter are from Warrenton.
From the city?
Yes.
31%.
And a little over 50% are from Warren County.
Okay. So you actually serve some outside the...
Yeah, one of the critical issues of domestic violence is women have to be able to move outside their geographic area. So women from Warrenton will be served, kind of, it depends a whole lot on what the safety issue is. And we participate in that process and are networked through our other domestic violence, our sister programs. So we serve women from this entire east central part of the state. But about 31% come from Warrenton City.
City residents. But
Correct.
that doesn't count the number of victims that may be passing through that become victimized in the city of Warrenton. Those are 31% are city residents, but that doesn't mean that others aren't the result of a domestic crime that occurred within the city limits of Warrenton.
That's true. Yes. We count by their residency, so
Sure.
I can tell you, we will produce data as requested. I'll produce financials, and we're pretty open with all of that, and have refined our data collection system so that we are tracking by zip code and cities, and, I can provide that aggregate data at any time.
I deal with domestic violence crimes daily and in my profession, and like an Agape, like other charitable foundations, I think that the revenue streams have dried up on a federal and a state level. Unfortunately, it seems like domestic violence is not often the golden child of these fundraising efforts. And I don't know if it's the stigmatism around it doesn't seem to get the attention or the fundraising that other charities do, and I do think that it provides a benefit to the city of Warrenton over and above the actual city residents that it serves. It makes the community safer. It assists the law enforcement agencies in Warrenton operate better, provides court advocacy. So I believe that it is at least worthy of discussion in the upcoming budget process to see if additional funds are available and warranted for Turning Point. So I would ask that we kind of take this into consideration during the budget process, and if any aldermen have questions or concerns or need additional data to make their decision, that they request that information.
Absolutely.
I would support that. I didn't need to catch up. I would support that. What I'd like to really see is you gave us a budget, I'd like to see a financial statement. I'd like to know what your cost is per case.
I can absolutely give that.
Yeah, that should be a pretty straightforward calculation. Realizing sometimes you're not serving just a mother, you're serving a mother and a family. So I would be kind of curious as to what your cost per case is.
And I just figured that, so I have it sitting on my desk.
I'm sorry.
Do you get any funding from the county or municipalities in the area?
We have the marriage and dissolution fee, which is,
A court cost?
it's a court cost also from the county. And so we're going into surrounding counties requesting that as well. That's, has been slower. It's a nice size amount of money. I think that is in the 9,000 range from the county. But we don't get it from all of our service counties. So that's one of my things we're working on, and also working on the municipal court fees.
And I told you earlier, I had quite a few questions that have now been asked, which is kind of nice.
Oh, okay.
You think I'm the good one now. I also would like to see that information, but even if you have a projected plan, you know, I see this data and wonder, okay, 2012, you're doing this, but as we grow, what are the projected needs? If you have that information, because I also agree with John. I think this is a critical program, and it affects so many areas of our community and our children. So anything additional that you
Yes.
can give us to build that case, I think would be very helpful.
I can do that.
Okay.
You might want to submit a 990 just to the city so we have that on file, which would be enough financial that you have to provide.
I can do that. Okay.
Any,
Thank you very much.
comments on that end, Jim? Alderman Blake?
No.
I think we all agree it's a very good program, a necessary program. I think we all have a responsibility to help and fund that. And I don't think just the city or just the county. I think everybody within the county has a responsibility. So we'll take a look at it, and we're having our budget discussions coming up here in a couple of weeks. We'll certainly take a look at it.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Reed.
Thank you.
I'm on item 13, Enhanced Enterprise Zone Discussion, and we're going to turn that over to our board member and director, Jerry Thorne.
Thank you, Mayor. Since the last meeting, it's been quite a whirlwind of efforts on the part of this newly formed committee. In your packets, you had some summaries of information, one which is the very drilled down version that I put together to try to summarize some of what I think are the important points that the committee has been able to work through over the last couple of weeks. You also have some summary information from Mr. Etcher at Boonswick Regional Planning, who has facilitated those meetings. And then, in addition, you have some samples of both the blighting ordinance as well as the ordinance approving the EEZ. I think it's important to recognize that the results of this committee having met, I think, have been very positive. They have worked through what I think are some of the questions that were out there and really drilled down from what the state minimum requirements are for awards of EEZ benefits to make it something that is more structured and I think more restrictive than what the minimums are, to hopefully accommodate those kind of businesses that would be valuable to have in the community and that would accomplish the goals, I think, of what the Economic Development Group has out there. So one of the things that that we've done is to make the minimum of full-time employees, the minimum state requirement is 2 new full-time positions. The committee decided that the minimum should be 10 full-time employees, feeling that 10 is a reasonable number that would be worthy of receiving benefits of the EEZ. Also discussed that the average wage of the new employees would be equal to 100% of the county's average wage, ensuring that they're not minimum wage jobs that are being brought into the community. And another area that I thought was important is to exclude in that calculation of the average wage executive positions. So we're assured that there's not someone who comes in and has 3 or 4 highly paid executive positions and everybody else is an $8 an hour position. So I think it accomplished addressing that particular issue.
Do you recall what the, I'm sorry to jump in, what the average county wage is right now?
1461, it's either 61 or 81.
81.
Is it 81?
That's what they said.
So those are decent paying jobs that we're talking about bringing to the community. In addition, health insurance coverage being required to be provided by the employer, we felt like if these are jobs that we are seeking in order to keep people working in our community, it's important to have health insurance benefits, particularly for families. We're trying to keep them from traveling out of the community to jobs outside, so felt like those benefits are really important, and at least 50% of that premium has to be paid by the employer. Minimum investment to qualify is $500,000. The state minimum is $100,000, so this is a significant dollar amount of investment above what the state minimum is in order to receive the benefits. Again, the thought process being, in order to receive the benefits of the EEZ, needs to be significant investment in our community. The abatement is now limited to a maximum of 80%. I think what you initially saw, and actually what's in many areas, is up to 100% abatement. What this does is ensures that at least a minimum of 20% is going to be realized by all the taxing entities within the county. So I felt like that was important. I think originally what you looked at had a proposal of 90%, but this group actually chose to reduce that to a total maximum of 80%. The EEZ benefits are non-transferable, meaning if a new owner comes in and buys a business that's receiving this, they would have to reapply, and certainly if they qualified would be entitled to those benefits, but only for whatever the remaining period was. So if the initial period was 10 years and there were 8 years remaining of that and the new owner qualified, they would be able to recognize the remainder of those benefits, but it's not automatic to transfer over to new ownership. One of the areas that we felt like required looking at was the discussion about major reduction in force. In the EEZ ordinance, you'll see that it describes that a business, if they have a major reduction in force, what would disqualify them from continuing to receive benefits. Originally, the number was 95%, so meaning that they could reduce their workforce up to 95% and still receive the benefits. The group felt like that number was too high and have reduced that now to 50% of the workforce, which I think is a much more reasonable number and expectation. Companies would have 24 months from the end of their construction, which starts the time period, to meet all of the requirements that are set out initially in the EEZ benefits. So once they complete construction, it gives them a reasonable period of time to be able to get all their workforce on board, make all of their commitment as far as dollars of investment in order to get those benefits. If for some reason they do not meet those within the 24-month period, then they are put onto the tax roll.
But they've already received 2 years' worth of benefit.
Right, right. There was some discussion.
To clarify John's situation, they've also lost 2 years of their abatement that it took to build the building, or whatever. Am I correct on that?
That's correct, because the abatement is only on the improvements.
Okay.
So instead of 10 years,
right,
technically, really, whatever period of construction time, there's no abatement because there's no real property to abate.
Gotcha.
All of the fees, should there be legal fees, the cost of oversight of the program, are to be borne by the business so that nothing is being paid out of the funds of whatever the taxing districts are that are included.
I'm sorry to keep jumping in.
That's okay.
Tell me what the thought process was behind this, the last one, the fees related to the application, execution, or oversight of the EEZ benefits.
Well, actually, I believe it was Karen Girondo out of Wright City who brought this point up. She has quite a bit of experience, not particularly with EEZs, but with tax abatement.
Correct.
And one of the things they've encountered is getting into a lawsuit with one of these companies that has received an abatement. And for some reason, it didn't go exactly the way that it was planned. So the government entity says, we're putting you onto the tax roll. That generates some kind of a legal situation, and rather than have the taxing entity have to spend money to fight a lawsuit or to maintain that, the legal fees would all be borne by whatever that business was that was receiving the abatement.
I know that was a concern of the county assessor's office too, so.
And for her as well, because I think she would be named in a lawsuit should she put the
Right.
business on the tax roll. And certainly unfair for her to have to spend money out of that budget for that legal defense, so.
Yeah, when Steve Etcher was here that night and the question came up about enforcement, he kind of shrugged his shoulders and said, well, there's no money. So now I think this fixes the problem.
Yes.
Yeah, in my perspective. I mean, I have to say, these standards are significantly better, in my opinion, than what the state minimums are. I mean, this requires somebody to make a substantial investment in the community.
Yes.
And I think in order to qualify, you need to make a substantial investment. So things like the 10 full-time versus the 2, the average wage with the exclusion, which came up at the board meeting, I think is critical. The health coverage is critical. All these things, the 500,000, I mean, you can go to bullet point after bullet point. I think they did a good job of really tightening it down so it's not as loose of a package as you might see otherwise.
They addressed almost every
Yes,
issue that
absolutely, absolutely.
What's
that we
this last
expressed.
one, Terry?
What we were told is that although this looks like it's something there could be a lot of businesses qualified for, research has shown in areas that have EEZs, only 5 to 10% of your new businesses coming in are really going to take advantage. And it's a situation where it's really not discretionary is the way it's being set up. So if a business is coming in and if they meet these qualifications, their approval is automatic. So nobody is picking and choosing. As long as they meet the qualifications and the requirements, then they're approved. It's an automatic approval. So there's no vote of the EEZ board to approve them. Certainly it'll be reviewed to make sure they meet the requirements, but there's not a vote of approval or denial of benefits if you meet all of these requirements.
Which includes the classes of business.
Yes, and those are very clearly defined. Certain classes of businesses are disallowed by the state. But then from what is allowed, it is certainly a narrowed down list of businesses that are even appropriate to receive these types of benefits.
I think that was a concern that we had, or the board had early on, that we're going to have these businesses scattered up and down both sides of the interstate. But according to what I heard by sitting in on a meeting, there's only maybe 5 to 10% of them will even qualify.
Yes.
So it's not that big of an issue, but yet it is a big issue because maybe the size of some of the companies that might come in.
And I think we got to remember, we still control zoning.
That's true.
And that was an issue that came up. The city still has control over zoning as to where businesses go or types of businesses go.
And then maybe one of the most important points to understand is in the timeline. Tonight's meeting discussion, if there are any further questions that you all have, we certainly can reconvene this group to get back together to address further issues or get further clarifications. At the May 21st meeting, it will be necessary to pass the blighting ordinance as well as the ordinance supporting the EEZ application. Because May 23rd is, as the mayor said earlier, the public hearing. The county is the formal applicant, and that formal public hearing is a requirement of the state. So it has to be held before the application can be submitted to the state. During the last week of May, Steve plans on submitting that application to the state agency with approval on June 1st. So it is absolutely imperative, if your choice is to move forward with this, that at the 21st board meeting, we're prepared to pass those ordinances. If any of the participants in the EEZ fail to pass the required ordinances, then the EEZ cannot happen. It requires full participation by all of those entities included in the area.
Does the countywide, I understand they're the applicant, so they're going to have the public hearing. Does that cover any legal obligation or public hearing requirement that we may have for blighting any portion of the city?
As I understand it, there is no legal requirement for a public hearing for blighting. I mean, you certainly could choose to have public hearings if that's what you'd like to do, but as I understand it, there is no legal requirement to do that.
Did this issue come up, Karen, at your meetings?
I was ready for it to, but it didn't.
Well, the blighting is a major issue. It's what concern of a lot of people out in the public. They're in favor of the businesses coming and the wages and everything, creating jobs and everything, but they don't appreciate a lot of people I've talked to do not appreciate their property being listed as blighted, and that is a major concern.
Can you quantify a lot? I mean, you know, sitting up here for a number of years, you may have 5 people or 10 people approach on an issue. If we're talking about the dogs in the community, you probably have 100 people come up, you know. So, I mean, could you give me a feel for how many people you've really talked to about this who have that concern?
I've probably had a dozen conversations with people, and I'd say 9 out of the 12 don't like blighting.
I've had the same conversation with people, and once you explain to them that it's more of a legal term than the idea of blight, of something not being very nice, they slowly but surely they come to understand it and realize, especially if you point out the Chesterfield Bottoms is a blighted area. In Winsville, the Parkway is a blighted area. So if those are blighted areas, I don't see a problem with it.
Well, they're more or less worried about their residents and their
Yes,
piece of
and see,
property.
and it's more of a legal term, if you look at it in that respect.
I understand that.
How you and your residents are looking at it.
You know, I'm going to throw this out that I have also heard those concerns. I'm not interested in necessarily doing the legal minimum requirement. What would everybody's thought be, and what would the practicalities be of trying to hold a public hearing at the beginning of the next board meeting, something to allow these people the opportunity to express their opinions on this blighting issue. At the end of the day, no matter what the decision is, I at least want to know that we gave everybody the opportunity to speak, and that we've made ourselves available for that public input. I don't know how widespread this is in such a short time that this has progressed, how informed the community is. We may have 20 people, we may have 0 people, but I would feel a lot better if we had given every possible opportunity to hear the public input on this before.
I thought that's why the county was doing that, to let everybody come and state their business. I guess I'm not interested in reinventing the wheel.
Well, I will tell you, one of my concerns about the county one is it's 11 a.m. on a Thursday.
That was my comment, exactly, because it would be something I'd like to go and address from here, but I'm in St. Louis.
It's 11 a.m. on a Thursday, and the practicalities, it may be very important to some people of our community, but they either can't afford or they can't physically be there. And again, I'm a big proponent of doing everything we can to spread the word that this is something coming out and getting as much feedback coming back in. A lot of my questions and concerns have been answered on the blight, to where I don't feel as negatively about it as I did when I first heard it. I'm not still 100% sold on it, but I feel a lot better, and maybe the opportunity to hear more people's opinion. I don't think it's ever a bad thing to get more public input.
I think it should be, if we do, I think it should be very structured in the sense that people should be assigned time slots and limits, because you could have people dominating.
Right.
And not everybody gets an opportunity. So I think everybody needs an opportunity within a time frame.
A couple minutes at the podium to
I was able to sit in on the board's last meeting, and I had a ton of questions, and I sat in as an observer and not a participant. And I give them credit how much time and energy they put in researching it. They answered all my questions at the end of an hour and a half meeting or so. That I thought they answered everything I had a question about. So.
And maybe a public hearing will allow people to get more information and feel better about the situation.
I agree with John. I think we've been given a lot of information, but maybe opening it up to a conversational meeting so that we can explain it again to them. It's an important issue, and I think when people hear this word, we need to just calm that fear. Listen to them and see what their opinions are. But I agree. I wish that meeting was not at 11 o'clock. If there was any way they could change that meeting time away from 11 o'clock, and then we just have that meeting. Otherwise, I think we need one where the general population can attend.
I believe the notice for that meeting was already published before we were aware of it. So I don't, and I think that's because the state had to be notified for the formal required public hearing. I guess my concern, if we do it before the next board meeting, does that give you all, first of all, if you start it, for example, at 6 o'clock, what if you have a room full of people and you're under a time frame? Is that going to work? And then secondly, does that give you time to go back and consider all of the statements that might be made before you're required that night to vote on the ordinance? Because as I said, if we don't approve the ordinance at that particular meeting, then this thing is dead. So I don't think we want to shortchange the time period to give you all time to consider whatever is brought up at that meeting.
And I just mentioned before, I just want to, at the end of the day, if we vote to move forward or not move forward on this, I want to be able to say, you know what, we asked for the community's input and we gave them the opportunity to give the input, and the decision that we made is then our responsibility.
I was looking through my paper, did you not give us some paperwork about impact on residential properties?
I had given you,
I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that wasn't the stuff on the table.
I gave a memo from where I had contacted prior to the last meeting, the economic development or individuals in the communities, on some information that they had given me. And I also have a map that I gave you that shows the different type of incentives that Winsville uses in their community. And you can see that on Pierce Boulevard alone, there are several different type of incentives that they use. And just wanted to give that to you for your information as well.
Yeah, I was particularly interested in the section that dealt with, the impact on residential properties, because that seems to be the biggest issue that's come up so far in terms of people being not comfortable, is the residential impact. And I know when the City of Columbia held their hearing, that was a question that came up, and I think somebody on a realtor board came up and talked about, that blighting is not something listed on a housing list.
Right.
You don't list your property and say we're blighted. That's not a standard thing in the package. So, the impression from reading their minutes of their meeting was that, that's how they addressed that issue, but.
Alderman Dreyer, are you interested in a public hearing?
Yeah, I agree with John. That sounds a good idea.
Alderman Flake?
Yep, go with it.
I am. I think, if we've already all been in agreement to this point, we need to be able to be a unified board to discuss this with the public, and explain it. Question is, you get down to the date, and we're talking next week.
Alderman Knox?
It's all about transparency.
Sure. Alderman Clark?
I don't have a problem with an open meeting. Like people I've talked to, once you explain, it's more of a legal term than actual, what we would consider blight. They seem to understand, and they're somewhat behind it.
We need a date.
That would be according to whatever your schedules are next, that leaves next week.
I was going to say, I don't think we want to put it off till the next board meeting that same night. I think that's too much crunch time. It would have to be next week. So I don't have a calendar in front of me. What's the...
Monday's the 13th.
Yes.
The only meeting I can't make is the 11th, the 14th, which is Tuesday. Otherwise, I have an open
Tuesday.
calendar.
I cannot make Monday. Other than that, I'm open.
So not Monday, not Tuesday.
I like Monday. Wednesday night, Thursday night?
Not later. Let's see, with one of our tourism
It's in the
board-
morning,
that's
so
in the
that
morning?
won't interfere.
What about the park,
It's on Monday night.
Monday night? Let's look at Wednesday then.
Wednesday night's church night.
Thursday, the 16th?
Who can't be there Wednesday?
I won't be here
Oh, you
Wednesday.
won't.
Thursday, the 16th?
I won't be here Thursday, the 16th.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's-
We're not going to get everybody there.
Yeah.
But I think as long as we can get the majority of the board present on one evening to discuss with the public, that's really what's
The main thing.
the main. So at least one person from each ward can be there. I think that's
I agree.
important.
I think let's look at Wednesday.
Okay.
And do you feel comfortable about being the moderator to the public on this, Terry?
Oh, sure.
I mean, you're serving the board, and, you're serving on that board, and I think you have more information than any of us.
I'd be happy to answer any questions that, there may be questions I can't answer.
Okay.
Anything
Maybe
that I
Mr.
can,
Etcher is.
I'll be
We
happy
could
to,
invite Steve maybe to be here.
I'll twist his arm.
Okay, that'd be good. Wednesday at what time?
Do you want to give Mr. Etcher two options in case he can't be here on Wednesday, and then do it on Thursday, if he could be here on Thursday and not Wednesday? I'm just wondering because
We could play that by ear, see what
Yeah.
happens.
because I think he'd be important.
6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, or?
I think 7 would probably be easier for people with families who might want to show
Yeah,
up.
we set board meetings at 7.
7 o'clock.
Okay, it will be too late. We won't be able to get anything in the paper because the paper won't be out. So we will need to do,
But you can't get anything in the paper.
the paper won't be out until Wednesday night.
Wednesday night,
Yeah,
Thursday.
The best.
No, but you get it in this week's paper.
No, you can't.
Can't?
It's too
No.
late. So we can do some
Public
radio
service.
advertising.
Terry, what about our website? We do have legal on our website. Would that meet your publication requirement?
Well, this is not really a legally required
But that would be
meeting, so
helpful.
I think we should if we can, but I don't think we're required to
Just
do
throwing
it.
that out there.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think it would be helpful.
Yeah.
Publication.
I think we can put it on our website, we can put it out on the board out front, we can do some radio announcements and maybe even get some of those yard signs, and maybe a banner to put down on a couple of select corners, because if we're going to do it, I think it's important We try to get the word out as much as possible to everyone so they're aware of it.
Can you
Okay.
find out what date Steve's
I
available?
will.
And then go from there?
I will do that in the morning, and then I will send something out to all of you to let you know what works.
Okay.
If this starts at 7, I could make Tuesday.
Okay?
I have something at 6, but I could make a Tuesday.
Was everybody else good with Tuesday?
Tuesday?
Yeah, I can do a 7. I can't do it earlier.
Okay. That way we can give him Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, and maybe.
Okay.
What you start out with, hey, are you available on Wednesday? And when he says, oh man, if only you had said Tuesday, then you say, all right, we can do Tuesday, yeah.
That's a good plan, John, but now you've put it out there, so
Now
we'll
we're
call
back
first
to-
thing
now
in the
we're back
morning
to
before he
Tuesday
gets the
again?
word.
Back to Tuesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Well, the decision on Tuesday wasn't until we decided the time. If you had said 6 o'clock on Tuesday, it'd be a dead issue.
Okay.
Any other questions that I can attempt to answer for any of you?
No, I think the board did a good job of addressing the concerns we brought up that night.
Thank you. I will pass that along.
You too.
How about health insurance? If we're done.
Okay, we can talk health insurance. Also in your packet, you had a memo discussing the renewal for our current GHP health plan. Our current increase is projected at 9.9% for renewal this year. Actually, I was pleasantly surprised that we were able to get below a double-digit increase. Our increase in claims from last year to this year is just over $200,000. We did have some significant illnesses that were paid out. So I think given that, was pleased. I'm not sure what will happen. Next year is the year that we actually go out for bid, and I'm not sure what our claims history will do at that point, but we may have to look at some creative options, look at some other ways to try to reduce costs, but at least for the upcoming year, not too bad. That creates an annual increase for the city's portion of just about $39,000 overall for annual premium increase. So
What's the total premium?
total premium is $495,000.
So our experience exceeded, I mean, if I'm reading this right, our claims experience was 620,000.
Yes.
So we went over,
You've got 100% loss ratio.
and you got a 9.9%
Yes.
increase. That's shocking.
As I said, I was pleasantly surprised.
Someone wasn't doing their math.
The actuary had a bad day or something. Yeah, because I'm surprised we get our experience, because usually if a firm is under 100 people, coverage is under 100 lives, they don't want to give you your experience.
They will not give us anything more than what you see here.
Really?
It's all in total, but at least we are getting that. I was really surprised at the 628,000 number. I knew it was high because I knew we'd had a couple of significant situations, but I had no idea it was that high.
So they won't give you individual claim amounts?
No. Nor would we
Right.
ask for that.
Is there any benefit to staff education as to how to most effectively use the benefits and how to most cost effectively use our benefits?
Yes, there is. In fact, one of the areas that we, what I would say, in my opinion, overutilize benefits is at the emergency room situation. So I think we need to do some education with staff to say, look, you pay a part, we pay a part. We need to try to minimize that type of utilization as much as possible and explain
The ramifications.
what
of that.
happens with that and what it does to our rates.
Well, do we have a lot of flexibility in the premium and the coverage terms? I mean, if they allow you to move the coverage terms around, you could make it the emergency portion
Yeah.
where it's more costly to the individual as a disincentive, because sometimes education doesn't cut it. So I don't know how much freedom they give you in the packet. Sometimes they say that, you get choice of deductibles or your medical card, and that's all you get. But other times, they may give you some more flexibility.
I believe at renewal next year that that's absolutely what we need to look at, is some higher levels of not only emergency room, but perhaps some of the other things that right now, we have what I consider a very rich plan. There are many things that there's little co-insurance required for. And one of the things we did a few years ago to really help cut back our premiums was to increase our deductible. Because our deductible applies only to a few services, not over the top most things that most employees receive throughout the year. So I think we could look at yet another increase in that deductible and still be saving money both for the city and the employee, because so few use their deductible. So that's why I say I think we need to be creative as we look at this for bids next year and see what we can really do to try to maintain our costs.
Let me ask you a question, a couple questions. Is one, do we use a broker for this, or do we have a broker that helps us with this? Or is this city just bidding through somebody locally, or how does that work?
We used, for 3 years, we stay with the same company, which right now is through Tri-County Agency. And so Scott Costello helps with helping us get the claims information together and trying to reduce our renewal percentage. When we go out for bids next year, we do that all ourselves. So we don't select a broker and then have them go out and bring multiple options back to us.
So we don't bid out a broker service?
No.
You do an RFP.
We have not in the past.
Well, we do an RFP for a
For the
broker, and then
service.
the broker is the one who provides the service of going out and getting the different coverages. So we do it that way.
That would actually be a much less labor-intensive
It would.
way of doing it than what we've been doing. Bidding out health insurance is probably one of the most labor-intensive things that staff from the
Yes.
city actually does administratively, because you get 6 or 7 proposals from 6 or 8 companies, and trying to wade through all of that it's very time-consuming and very confusing often as well.
I mean, I don't know what you think, Karen, but certainly when we get closer to this, I'd like to see us consider an RFP for a broker service to see if we could help us with that. Because this is going to be really complicated this coming year. And it's going to be very time-consuming with the Affordable Care Act kicking in and all the things going on. Because I know in our organization, we use one that's invaluable, what they can bring to the table for you.
I think that would be, Brandy would be very appreciative to do that.
And then, another question is, this isn't a package specifically related to the government. This is just in the open market?
Correct.
Okay. Because small organizations go through the state of Missouri with their insurance, but this is open market. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Did I interrupt you again, Karen?
Nope, I was going for chocolate.
Oh, okay.
No, I do agree. I think we get, October, November, we need to start looking at RFP options, get that out there early.
That would be great.
Yeah. Because if you get a full-service broker, they can do a lot for you. They bring statistics in. And the sad part about training and education, it doesn't always impact your premium. We do a lot of it in our organization. It doesn't impact your premium because they still have the ability to basically do what they want.
Sure.
I mean, our claims experience was 40%, and we still got an 8% increase. It was like, you're kidding me.
But I tell you, when you increase the ER visit to $250, it makes you think twice.
Absolutely, I agree. Good.
Not that that's what we would do, but.
So do you need an action tonight on this?
It would be nice to have a motion just to approve the renewal.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Ock, seconded by Alderman Cornell to approve the health insurance renewal in the amount of $39,247.66.
That's the
56.
increase. That's the increase. What's the total quote? That's just the increase.
That's why I didn't say it in the motion.
I don't know that I actually have a total because it changes as we add and remove individuals.
Okay.
Well, why don't we do the 9.9?
That would be awesome.
Use the 9.9%, scratch
Yes.
my $2,447 and scratch that and put 9.9% there. Roll call vote.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Operational updates. If there's no other questions on health insurance?
Just a couple of things. Jack Hanf asked that I remind you all about the upcoming fundraiser for Missouri Torch Run. This Saturday, he is having a mini golf tournament across the street at the pavilion. Encourages all of you golfers to come out and join him. All of the money will be donated to the Torch Run. Starts at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning with open play, with the tournament starting at 1 o'clock. So encourage all of you golfers to come out and join them on Saturday morning. And he says even if you aren't a golfer, you can still come, whether you really know how to golf or not. It's all fun.
It's putt-putt.
It's putt-putt.
Putt-putt.
It's
That's
putt-putt.
it, exactly.
Yeah, I'm worse at that.
Also, iPad rollouts are,
One thing about that. Can he give us something electronically
yes.
for this? It would help to disseminate the information.
Thank you.
I'm sure he would love to do that.
Thank you.
Also, iPad rollout is scheduled for later this week. I think the first of you are scheduled on Thursday morning at 9:30, and others of you are scheduled at 4:30 on Thursday afternoon. So iPads are going to be out there. We did some experimental upload, I think is the right term, of the files for the meeting tonight, and those seem to work actually very well. It happens very quickly, even though some of them are pretty large files. So we are going to proceed with both the upload through Dropbox to your iPads and paper copies for a couple of meetings to make sure we work out all the kinks. And then at some point, we will go paperless. So pretty excited about that. Seems to look like it's going to work very well.
That would have been great, because that would have been something on airplanes today. So that's a great addition.
Yeah, I think once we work out all of the logistics, I think it's going to work very well. But we'll see how that goes.
I don't know if Alderman Flake's that excited about it as you are, though.
He's really
You don't
excited.
see me jumping up and
I
down,
don't
do you?
No. And I'm kind of with Alderman Flake on that.
Well, that makes three of us. Some of us dinosaurs are, it
We're
hasn't been
slow.
that long since we got rid of our rotary phones, so.
All you gotta do is flip your finger.
Whatever.
We'll see.
It'll be fine.
I only got this, I couldn't figure out how to answer
Also,
it.
just let's call it a reminder. I know that everyone waits with anticipation on Wednesday morning for these meetings to show up on YouTube and on the public access channel. But I want to remind everybody that typically it's going to be there on Wednesday morning, but there are going to be times when it is not going to show up until Thursday morning at the latest. Sometimes when the meeting is longer, it takes longer to upload it to YouTube. So, and if there is any kind of issue with the disc and Melody's here trying to make that work, we get a lot of really irritated phone calls. So just want to remind everybody, we'll get it out there as quickly as we can, but there is a process for it to happen. And if there's any kind of technical glitch at all, it can delay that.
Do you get calls about that?
Oh, yes.
Really? Good, that means people are watching it.
People are
That's
definitely
great.
watching.
I was
And there-
reprimanded by a number of citizens in my ward for not speaking too closely to the mic. And my wife said I was
There you go.
slouching, so I lost.
But we do get it out there as quickly as possible, but there are times when
Have to shape up.
it
I
it
know.
is not there on Wednesday
That-
morning.
That's, yeah, that's, I mean, that's,
unfortunate, but that's encouraging that people are watching and paying attention.
Absolutely,
And
they
that's
are.
the old approved one, because you don't do tonight's tomorrow.
No, it'll be tonight's meeting.
Oh, you
Yeah.
will, okay, okay.
Is the
What else, Terry?
That's it.
That's it?
Can I just, is the channel like on Charter 900 and something?
993.
993, because it doesn't say it on the website. It would be nice if on the first page it would say it, because it just says check with, I called down here when I was running to try to get it, and somebody said, oh, just do YouTube. Well, I did that, but I think there is, a Charter is 993.
Is it always 993 now, though?
If you had the older TV before, I think it's 2007, it's 993 because you have to have the converter box. If you have a newer TV that's got the, I believe it was the HD, it's 108-1.
How do you get to 108? Never mind.
You have to do the menu.
It goes back up. I can never figure out how to get 108-1.
Well, this iPod rollout's gonna be different.
This is just a warning. Unfortunately, we're Thursday night, so if the lights are in City Hall at midnight, it's because I'm still sitting here trying to figure it out.
I have faith in you, Gary.
Thanks.
Anything
That's all
else?
I have, Mayor.
I'm going to Brad, Grounds and Maintenance Director, item 15.
Good evening, Board and Mayor. First on my agenda is the approval of the East Side Parking Lot Closure Project. I think you all have the, in front of you, the budget amount was $1,200 and it came in at $1,168.50. And those are coming from two different suppliers. One is from Chick and one is from Lowe's.
Somebody explain to me what the East Side parking lot project is.
At the east side, at the athletic complex, so we're putting gates up on our parking lots. Been having a lot of vandalism during the wintertime, and then up on the parking lot C, which is the one closer to the ball fields, to stake that off to keep them from driving, because it's pretty much flat across there, so we're putting post and cable up there too, that in the wintertime, then we can close that all off, keep it from going in and messing our parking lots up.
Does Lowe's deliver that
Yep.
for that price?
That was, stole it right out of my mouth. I thought for $15 we can't drive down and get it.
So what do we need to do? Approve the expenditure, or?
Yes, it's out of capital, so it has to, you all have to approve that.
So move the expenditure for $1,168.50 for the closure of the parking lot.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Ock, seconded by Alderman Kessley to approve the East Side parking lot closure bid in the amount of $1,168.56.
Can I make one comment, just for, and I don't know how the board feels on it, for the $15 difference between Lowe's and Chick here in Warrenton, is it worth considering buying all the material through Chick? I don't know what the practice has been in the future. I try and kind of gauge what I would do personally and gear my spending the same. I don't know if there's a right or a wrong answer, but it's at least worth a thought.
You're kind of opening up a different kind of worms here on
I know.
accepting low bids and using taxpayers' dollars to the best of our ability.
Oh, I agree.
I question if we want to go that direction or not.
The only response I can give you is from the state auditor perspective. If you don't accept the low bid, then in your motion, you need to state why you're not accepting the low bid.
I'd be prepared to do that, but again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just throwing it out there first.
Well, if you wanted to do another motion, John, I would be prepared to withdraw my motion if the second person was prepared to withdraw their second. Now she gets really confused. It's like,
Oh, man.
You know what, I would make a motion to approve the purchase of 6x6 by 12 posts at $899.25 from Chick Lumber, as well as 75 bags of Quickcrete from Chick Lumber in the amount of $35.87 or 97 cents. Recognizing it is not the lowest bid, but in my opinion, the best bid.
Plus, we're gonna get almost $9 back on
Have
taxes.
you withdrawn your motion?
well, I think the second has to withdraw the second. I'll withdraw mine if the second withdraws the second.
Who was the second on that?
Karen.
Pardon me?
Karen.
Oh, I have to withdraw my second.
Yes.
All right, I withdraw my motion.
That motion's withdrawn and dead. All right, Alderman Cornell.
Want me to make that again?
Yes.
Yeah, do it again.
Exactly like you did the first time.
I make motion to approve for the expenditure of $899.25 at Chick Lumber for the 6x6 by 12 foot posts, as well as 75 bags of Quickcrete for a total cost of $294.75, also from Chick Lumber, recognizing it is not the low bid, but it is the best bid.
Give me that total again.
$899.25 plus $294.75. And $1,195, I believe, $94.
You got it?
Yes, $1,194.
Pardon me?
$1,194.
Yes.
That's what I said.
We have a second on that motion?
Not yet.
Pardon me?
Not yet.
I'm asking. I need a second on Alderman Cornell's motion.
I'll second.
Who did that?
John.
Alderman Clark?
Yeah.
Motion made by Alderman Cornell, seconded by Alderman Clark to approve the bid on the 6x6 by 12 foot T-post from Chick Lumber and Hardware Company in the amount of $899.25, along with the 25 6x6 by 12, I don't even know what that is, TR? Treated, in the amount of $35.97 for a total of $1,194. Could I have a roll call now?
Alderman Flake?
Yes. I'm so confused.
I am too.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Do we need to state on there why we didn't take the low bid? Does that need to be part of that
It was
motion?
pretty vague, because he considered it was the best. Does he have to explain why he thinks it's the
Brad?
best?
I think we need to.
To the auditors.
Not a problem. I believe that it is beneficial to the community and to the employment of the community members to purchase local, even when it is a small percentage higher in overall cost.
Brad, were both organizations going to deliver that?
Yes.
Both were.
Well, there's no delivery charge or no gas being saved. Okay. Good enough.
Catching up on words.
Yeah, I think you passed her, John.
Yes, I think so.
How about the HVAC?
Next I have is the HVAC bid for the original City Hall. And my recommendation is to go with Fred Mueller Services out of St. Peter's for $11,499.
So you get to explain to us why you don't want to go with the low bid.
Well, the one from CNS is actually just two air conditioner units stuck inside on the wall. They're just mounted on the face of the wall inside, and all they're going to do is blow out one in the kitchen, one in the other room. I don't think it's going to be very beneficial to the whole upstairs where we need it. The other one from Fred Mueller is actually, we're going to put two 3-ton units in the through the roof. So we'll have new ductwork upstairs and the reason we're doing this, when we reconfigured the City Hall, that was not taken into consideration, all the printers, the computers, the people, the bodies, everything. It was still set up for the old City Hall with the chambers and 2 employees. So the heat part, we don't have really that much problem with. We can regulate that. It's the air conditioner. When they come in, turn the computers on and the lights on. The and that's without any bodies in here, the temperature goes up 5 degrees automatic. You start putting bodies in, that's 10 degrees. You add this, the 104-degree heat that we had last year with the brick on the west side. There was, I used to come in at 4:30 in the morning, crank the air conditioner down to 60, and when they came in and started, it'd be up to 78, 80 degrees, and I think Gab will attest to that. She was sitting there with sweating, and had the air conditioner was doing all it could do at 60. Had it on 60, it just wouldn't keep up. So that's why we want to go with this. This way, we're putting all new ductwork in the ceiling. It's going to be a more uniform cooling than I think the other two units are going to be, because basically just the kitchen's going to be cold, and the one spot out here is going to be cold.
For only a difference of $1,000.
Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't mind if you wanted to cut the air off up here. Seems perfectly fine. Why is Schreier Heating and Cooling's bid so much different? I mean, why did they bid such a different
They were
package?
actually going to tear out all of our furnaces, put all new furnaces in. As a matter of fact, I think there's 5 furnaces that they're putting in, and cutting the ductwork in the concrete. They were tearing all, we would have to go in and take our whole ceiling out of the basement for them to run new ductwork.
So they couldn't do the same exact thing that the other contractors were looking to do? They just didn't feel like it was efficient?
Don't know. They came
Okay.
in, they all had the opportunity, told them what we want, this is what they came up with.
Okay.
You told them, you basically said,
I-
this is
I
our
told them-
problem, tell
I
me
said,
what you
this is our
propose to
problem
fix it.
that we have with this is, and they were in here when it was that hot, telling, they could see what they were doing. The furnaces are, like I say, the heating part is no problem with the old part. It's the cooling, because we everything's been added with all the brick and everything, so that's where we were at, and that's when I told them, this is the problem that we have when when everything comes in, everything heats up, and they were just, there's just 3 different ways of trying to rectify it.
Well,
And
Brian,
I think we went out for, I think we sent it out to a total of 9 heating and air contractors, and we only got 3 bids back.
I trust the years of experience that you have. Do you think that what Fred Mueller is proposing to do will work?
Oh, yeah, it definitely will, and that's 6 more tons of air on top of what we already have, so, yes, I think that's when the way he's gonna do it with the new ductwork, trunk lines up in the attic and dropping it in, makes a,
Okay.
should be no
Well, I'd like to
problem.
make a motion that we accept the bid from Fred Mueller Service Company in the amount of $11,499 for the updated HVAC.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Casterly, seconded by Alderman Flake to approve the Fred Mueller Service Company from St. Peters, Missouri as our best bid at $11,499. Roll call.
This room won't get colder, will it?
Alderman Cornell?
This room cool.
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Last I have is the approval to hire Randy Scipione as a part-time seasonal grounds and maintenance worker at $10 an hour with a start date of May the 11th.
Mr. Scipione from the community.
Yes, he is he's actually retired, just retired this, or is retiring this year from the Troy High School as the industrial arts teacher over there.
Make a motion to approve the hiring of Randy Scipione at a rate of $10 an hour with a start date of May 11th, 2013.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Cornell, seconded by Alderman Casterly to approve to hire Randy Scipione as a part-time seasonal ground and maintenance worker at $10 an hour with a start date of May 11, 2013. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Casterly?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
May I ask a quick question? Do we post all these positions? Or, so this was a position somebody could have went out to the website and applied for? And did this position go through the Police and Personnel Committee, or is it only certain positions that go through?
The seasonals do not typically go through the
Okay.
Personnel Committee.
Okay.
Item 16, Gabrielle Curry, Finance Manager.
Good evening. The first item I have is the accounts payable. I'm requesting approval to pay the invoices in the amount of $275,150.50.
Any questions or concerns about accounts payable?
Is this the second one? We got two different ones? Is it-
Right, one was sent out on Friday.
Okay.
And you have the completed one at the top. It says Tuesday, May 7th, 2013.
That's not, they reprint
Oh,
the whole
something,
thing.
okay. Oh, I see, okay.
And this is the most up-to-date one, this last one here on our desk, right?
Correct.
It's confusing because they reprint the whole thing.
That's fine.
I'll make a motion that we approve the accounts payable for the month for $275,150.50.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Flake, seconded by Alderman Dreyer to approve the accounts payable in the amount of $275,150.50. Roll call, please.
Alderman Ock?
Yes, I do have a couple of questions though, but yes.
You want to ask those questions before we approve them?
Well, if you want me to.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious as to, when we submit it to the board, all these are signed off by the supervisor, or is this all signed off by Terry, or how, what's the procedure, just out of curiosity?
It's actually the department head and Terry as well.
Okay, all right, that's all I have.
Does that answer them?
Yes,
All right.
yes.
I'm trying to figure out what the difference was. We added the
Alderman Clark?
bill.
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly?
Yes.
Is that it? Motion carried 6-0. Monthly report.
Yes.
Go line by line.
I have that included in your packet. If you guys have any questions about that? If not, I will move on to the next item.
You're on the financial statement
Right.
review.
Financial statement review.
Yep.
Right.
Any questions or concerns?
Is there a way on the reports to pull out the capital? For example, let me get to the page. There's a report on, I'm trying to
Right
find.
here, you talking about this one?
Yeah, there's a report on the budget report, and sometimes, you know, when you look at a report, it can get distorted if the capital items are large, and so you see like, here's my operating income, here's my operating expenses, here's operations, and then the capital is set aside. So, because when you look at these reports, you kind of go, well, it's distorted, but it's always distorted by the capital, and if you're going to try to analyze the operation side, you're almost going to back the capital out. Is that an option in the software package to realign the reports? I'm just curious.
To have the financial statement and remove that, is that what you're saying? The
Yeah.
pages, these pages? Because I have a capital report in here that details.
No, I saw that. I was
Okay.
just, well, we can discuss this later, because I'd like to get together
Okay.
4 o'clock Thursday before,
For your life rocks.
yeah.
If I understand your question correctly, capital is on a separate line item.
It is, but if you look at the bottom of, she has a report here that's called the budget report. So it shows the year-to-date actual of whatever the number is, but that includes the capital item.
So you'd like to have the capital below, like an operating total?
Right.
And then the lines for?
Right.
You'd just like to have sort of a subtotal?
Yeah, subtotal. That way it gives you, because if you say, well, the general fund has a deficit of 28,000 or 38,000, but that's due to $100,000 or $200,000 of capital lines, it's really not operational. Does that make sense? And I don't know, some software packages can split it out, some can't. I don't know what you have.
Okay.
Something, if you could look at that. I think, to me, that's always been an issue for the 20 years I was here. You always had to back out the capital items, to figure out what your operations were really making.
So are you thinking capital and like debt service and
Debt service
transfers,
could be one,
just-
or whatever is not true operational. I mean, sometimes debt service is appropriate, it just depends on what the circumstances.
So you're looking at this one right here.
Okay.
Yeah, because, this is the one, the budget report. So it shows a deficit of 129,614, but then there's capital expenditures of 272,000. So if you back those out, you get a little different operational look. Something to think about.
Okay.
Otherwise, I do this kind of for a living. I know the effort it takes to do this. Appreciate it. Part of what I do for a living.
I don't know what you
Okay. The next item is the health insurance waiver payments. There is a memo in your packet that lists the employees that are eligible for that, which is per the city policy, health insurance annual benefit payment versus coverage. These are the folks that had waived the insurance coverage from January 1st, 2012 through May 31st, 2013.
These people all have health insurance somewhere else?
Correct.
And they're required to show proof of that, or?
Correct, yes. So I am requesting approval to pay these employees. The checks would be through payroll on June 7th, 2013.
And the amount of the 10,000, is that what you're asking for?
Yes, $10,790.40.
Any questions or concerns on that?
No, I think this, we might have to change this policy with the Affordable Care Act. I think, because we're looking at this too, where you can't do it the same way we always did. So it's something where a broker would help us. Because there's different rules as to people waiving coverage under the new act, so we need to look at that.
Our city attorney did look at this recently.
Right.
Because originally, he believed that we would have to stop this program.
Right.
But then about a month ago, came back and said with further research, he believed we would be able to continue this.
Yeah, well, I'd be kind of curious to see what the research was for my own
Okay.
purpose, because I know we're considering stopping it where I'm at because of some provisions in the act. And I think in the industry, there's a lot of question about it. I mean, I don't have any problem doing it now because it's certainly in the policy. So I'd make a motion that we approve the payment of the health waivers.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Ock, seconded by Alderman Cornell to approve the health insurance waiver reimbursements in the amount of $10,790.40. Roll call, please.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Okay, my final item is to request a budget work session. The original work session was scheduled for June 4th, prior to the regularly scheduled board meeting, which would only give us an hour to go through the budget. So I'm requesting to change that to a different date. We'd sent out an email looking at June 11th. Were there any issues with that date? Is everyone available?
What's that on? What day?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Works for me.
I didn't get anything back that said anybody couldn't do
Yeah,
it.
that's fine.
What time were you gonna do this?
How early would you guys be able to?
6 o'clock?
Works for me.
Does that work for you, Gary?
Yeah.
You don't worry about me, John?
Does that work for you, Kay?
Yes, it does.
I'll be able to sleep better now.
No, what date and time again?
June 11th at 6 o'clock.
No one asked me.
I'm glad I'm not sitting where the mayor's sitting.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
That's it?
Thank you.
Thank you, Gabrielle. I'm on item 17, Recreation Director Dottie Phillips.
Good evening. The first item I have is the April Recreation Monthly Report. I actually have two things to note about this report, and that's it. The adult men's softball, that has actually been moved to the athletic complex Field B. We had originally scheduled it at Corey Park, but there were some most of the teams were dissatisfied with that decision, so after getting a request, we were able to work some things around and move it. So we made that decision today and notified them today.
So what was wrong with Corey Park?
Their concern is that the field is too short.
Short.
And that there are trees and foul poles that they could possibly run into.
So
Okay, I'm just
those
curious.
things were taken into consideration when we first made the decision to move it there, and felt that it would have been, that would have been okay to play them there. But after getting as much feedback, decided that for now it would probably be in the best interest to move it back out to the complex. The reason for moving it was because we were trying to leave Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays open for tournaments. We are able to continue to do tournaments even on Sundays, but we have kind of toggled the games so that we've only got one field being used at a time. Usually on Sundays, the tournaments have decreased their number of teams, and we can make that work. And in the memo that we sent to the teams, told them that in the case of a large tournament, we may have to reschedule the men's games to accommodate those tournaments. So.
Okay.
The other note I wanted to make was the May 4th and 5th game time tournament rental was canceled last weekend due to rain. But it is rescheduled for this weekend. And they dropped down to 15 teams, but considering that it's Mother's Day weekend, I think they're pretty satisfied with that, so.
It's supposed to rain this weekend, isn't it?
I know.
We
have managed to get less than 10 league games in since the middle of April due to rain. So we're really rescheduling a lot of games. Unless anybody has any other questions on the report, that's all I have for that.
Did you get the phone update fixed?
Yes, we did. Second thing I have is approval to hire this list of seasonal employees. These are additional, in addition to the ones that you had seen previously.
Seasonal employees. Any questions or concerns?
Members of the community?
I'm not really sure where all of them are from, but we have definitely tried on these seasonals to hire local people, but not all of them are from the community.
Understood that all of them won't be.
Need a motion to approve hires.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Cornell, second by Alderman Flake to approve the recreation part-time seasonal employees at the rate of $7.45 an hour. Roll call.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Farmers Market, Dottie.
So the farmer's market has, it's been interesting for me. This is something I do not have experience in, so I've been able to do a lot of research and talk to different people. In January, right after I came, we did a small evaluation of the vendors that we had from last year. And from that, only 6 of them returned the evaluations. But from those completed evaluations, we were able to draw the conclusions that I've listed on the memo here. And based on that, came up with 3 goals in moving forward with the market for this year and beyond. And that was to increase customers attending, to increase vendors that were selling, and then also to establish clear rules and regulations regarding items sold, activities, and conduct of vendors. Those were the 3 main goals that we came up with. The first 2 items, I think, kind of go hand in hand. If you want to increase customers, you're going to have to increase vendors. If you want to increase vendors, you have to increase customers. So it's like, what do you do to meet that? And in talking and kind of looking around at what was happening in other communities, I felt that possibly the best choice for us at this time would be to expand our farmers market into a farmers and flea market. For whatever reason, right now it's very popular for people to go out and to these flea markets and repurpose things, and that seems to be a big trend throughout the United States right now. So we felt that possibly if we could get some of the flea market type vendors in, that it would bring foot traffic into
the farmer's market, awareness to the farmer's market. So I'm requesting approval to actually make that change from a farmer's market to a farmer's and flea market. Having said that, there would be obviously some restricted items. We wouldn't allow firearms, gunpowder, drug paraphernalia, pornography, copyrighted things, alcoholic beverages, or used clothing.
What kind of feedback did you get? Have you proposed the flea market, the farmers and flea market to the current vendors?
Actually have not, no, I have not, because I wanted to see if there was support to make this change prior to taking that to them, for two reasons. One is because they're pretty excited to get started, and they're already asking questions and kind of a little bit demanding of information that I haven't been able to give them thus far because I just simply don't have it. So I didn't want to be, they're getting excited.
Okay.
So I didn't want to feed into that. I wanted to be
Understood.
able to give them some concrete information.
Understood.
Here's what we would like to do, here's what we would like to try. The other thing is, I don't know that, last year they expanded the market to include some additional items besides the homegrown items.
Right.
So this basically would just be one step further in that direction, with a change in title of what we were actually trying to do.
Do you have a feel for what kind of response you're going to get?
I think that the response that we have received thus far, there has been some reluctance on the actual farmers to allow vendors to come in who are buying their stuff elsewhere.
Right.
But that's because it's a farmer's market. And when you look at the definition of farmer's market, it is locally homegrown stuff. When you change it to farmers and flea market, you're expanding the definition of the activity that you're holding. So by keeping it a farmer's market, it should only be, according to definition at least, locally grown stuff. But when you expand, then it opens it up to, allowing those people who maybe are buying it someplace else, but also allowing for additional items.
I got that same feedback. There's numerous times I went last year, and it was very frustrating for the local farmers to compete with the truck that got brought in from St. Louis with fresh food. They obviously had a ton more to choose from because the farmers couldn't, obviously grow that much produce. Is there a way that you could design it if you did the flea and farmer's market, farmer flea market, where food items must be homegrown food items and still keep the flea market idea? Because a flea market could be all kinds of antiques or a variety of things.
I think that we could restrict it as much as we wanted to. I mean, there's no, if we wanted to say any food items must be, homegrown, homemade, whatever.
I don't know, I mean, we had a free market speech earlier. To me, that restricts the free market. I mean, you can go to Soulard Market in the city and they don't have these kind of restrictions on that. There are commercial people in there as long, I don't know how many homegrown stuff there is. I don't know, it just, they have to.
Well, one of the other things is, when I was looking back at the list of vendors, they had a list of 24 names, but I've only been able to confirm that we had 12 people, or 12 vendors who have come consistently. And, frankly, I think part of it is because they are able to go to other, there's the Warren County farmers market that's now in Rice City, and it's grown and gotten pretty big. I saw something the other day where now Washington's doing one. I mean, I just think that, there's so many of them in so many places that we're only going to draw so much with a farmer's market. Whereas, and I mean, I'm open for suggestions and ideas. This is my only,
I follow your thought process in that, if you expand it to more items, you're going to get more people that are walking and coming to the market that in turn are then gonna buy from the farmers who were gonna be here, so.
One of the challenges that we had prior to expanding was feedback from the community that said, if I don't get there by 8:30, all the food's gone, so why do I bother going?
Right.
Which is what prompted allowing outside individuals to bring in things that weren't homegrown, so.
And last year was a tough year.
Last year was a
Yeah.
tough year. But without adding that additional component, I think we lost a lot of the farmers market traffic who really was interested because they got here at 9:30 and there was nothing to buy from the homegrown farmers. So I don't know what the right answer is, but I know that was an issue that we faced.
Have we approached the homegrown farmers who are doing Wright City to see if they would do an additional day here? Because I mean, there's a lot of history to this. I talked to 4 or 5 people, and I think this was a PR nightmare for the city when they left the fairgrounds, and I'm not sure what the issue was, but everybody I talked to who would shop at the fairground is still angry about it. And I said, well, how long ago was that? Well, 3 years. Well, they're still angry. And so why'd you shop up here? No, we're going to go there. So there's a lot behind this that it's a challenge for you. And the only thing, so I said to several of these people, what would make you come to the Warrenton Flea Market or the Warrenton Farmers Market on a Saturday? And they said, well, basically it was having more people and more vendors. So is there a way of approaching them, the vendors in Wright City, and saying, could you come to Wright City on what is it, Tuesday or Thursday, come to Warrenton on Saturday? Or is there still that issue there that caused this whole thing to blow up? I'm not sure what it was.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dottie.
I was just going to say, I think based on the notes and things I found, I do think there has been an attempt to try to get those people to come back.
Okay.
I don't know, I actually found, and I can't remember specifically, but I did find some memos and notes and what have you on this where they had gone there, and I think they gave them a little card inviting them, some sort of a little, so I do believe that there has been an attempt to do that, and certainly we would continue to do that. I mean, I actually have mentioned here in the marketing efforts that we will be going out to some of these other farmers markets as well as flea markets if we choose to go that route and invite those vendors to participate. Now, we will have some limited, we're looking at 20 booth spaces under the pavilion or within, that area. So we're not talking about, a huge flea market. But the intent is just to bring in enough that it would help the farmers as well as the community have more access.
I mean, if your central question is, does the board support adding the flea market piece on? I personally don't care. That's a service to the community and people would use it. I don't have an issue with it personally.
I don't either. And I like the extended hours because that's always my problem.
And actually, there's one more change that I want to make sure that you guys are aware of that I have proposed here that we can, it doesn't really matter to me. But so the dates of operation are June 8th to September 28th, which is consistent with what it was last year. We did expand the hours. It was, I can't remember now, but anyway, we expanded it to 2 p.m. But also, right now, a lot of these things that we're doing, we're not really recouping any of our cost. And whether we want to do that or not, I don't know. But I built into this proposal having the vendors pay a fee of $25 for an annual vendor pass. So they pay it one time, and they can come as many times that year as they want, as long as we have spaces available for them. If they want to have a booth every single time, the same space every single time consistently, they can pay an additional $25 for a reserved space that is theirs for the entire year. This $25 fee, let's say that all 20 spaces that we have were reserved annually, we would make $1,000. The cost to have an employee sitting there that entire time is $1,076 per year. So the attempt in putting that in was simply to cover the cost of the employee that is going to be there.
So we have to have an employee sitting at this event? Is that what you're saying?
What?
we have an employee who actually sits there during, really? And the reason is?
Believe it or not, there are some management issues associated with having the vendors at the site. And
Enough said.
my fear is if we did not have an employee there, it would become not desirable.
That's it. My only concern with the $25 fee is, are we, on one hand, opening it up to encourage more vendors and then associating fee with it, which may cut it down? I would rather try and grow the market for a year and then see if we are able to, and then institute a fee, would be my own personal preference.
Either that or use the money for more signs and marketing, which would benefit them as well. That's what I thought we were going for with the fee. I don't know what we have in the monies right now to actually do signs and stuff to get people.
We actually do have money budgeted for marketing of the event.
So are you looking for you're looking for direction, obviously. Do we need to make a motion, or?
I think from what I'm hearing, it's in your hands, and we're going to support you on which direction you're going to lead us. Fair enough?
Yes, what about Terry?
I'm sorry?
I bet she wants more specific.
Well, I guess, we can certainly not charge a fee. Our experience has been, though, if you don't charge something, even if it's nominal, you will get people who will say, I'm going to be there for the space, and then you don't allow someone else to use that space, and then that space sits empty. And then you get 5 or 6 of those people, and now your 20-person market is only a 14-person market. So I think we've been more successful when we've required, even if it's a minor, maybe the fee's $10.
You know what, you just sold me on it with that explanation, but I hope that explanation can somehow be given to the vendors who we're requesting this payment from, because I think that benefits them also.
Right.
So.
Right. I agree with that. You want just a general consensus all across the board?
And I think that's what, does anybody have any trouble or issue with that? It's in your hands, Dottie.
Go ahead with it.
Go with it.
All right, thank you.
If it falls flat, then we'll be yelling at you.
Okay.
If the mayor doesn't get tomatoes on Saturday morning, it's going to be bad.
Yeah. What else you got for us, Dottie?
The last thing I have is asking for approval to purchase a hot dog roller in the amount of $774, which is the low bid from Central Restaurant Supply.
You came to the right guy, I like hot dogs. Request approval for the, make a motion to approve purchase of the hot dog cooker from Central Restaurant in the amount of $774, which is also the lowest bid.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Cornell, seconded by Alderman Dreyer to approve the low hot dog cooker bid from Central Restaurant in the amount of $774. Roll call, please.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Anything else?
No, sir, thank you.
Thank you, Dottie. Economic Development Director, Michelle Slunter.
Good evening. The only thing I have for you tonight is my economic development update, and I'd like to point out some different things to you real quick. There's a flyer that you have, which was done by Boonslick. It says, "Are you prepared?" Boonslick received funding from the Economic Development Administration, to prepare this. They have an online tool that will assist small businesses in creating a plan for disaster to help them, so that way if we have a major disaster, they have that information. So that is online. I just wanted to let you know about that. Something of concern that may be coming up for us is that the solid waste districts, I don't know if you've heard this or not, they may disappear. They're having issues with their funding. Funding was actually pulled and has been restored. They had previously 12 million, they're down to 4 million now. There's actually someone trying to get it all pulled. They feel that the planning commissions and some of the solid waste districts are not handling the money correctly, and they're utilizing too much of it on administrative costs instead of on other costs. And so that may end up hurting us with our center that we have South 47, so we'll have to see how that comes out. And then Boonslick is actually having a pesticide collection in Lincoln County on May 18th. It's at MoDOT's maintenance facility at 111 Francis Drive in Troy. This is open to residents and it's open to farmers. They can send in herbicides, insecticides, pesticides, fertilizers that contain those things. So that is open, and that is being funded by the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. And that will be May 18th from 9 to 4 p.m. And that is all I have for you this evening.
Could I ask, when we have this public hearing, that you see if you could contact a couple of real estate professionals in the area so they could specifically address the concerns that several aldermen have said about the impact of on their houses relative to the blighting issue? As they would certainly be more knowledgeable about that than I think we would. Or if there's an individual or an organization that represents them in the community, that would be great.
I can do that.
Is that it, Michelle?
Yes.
Any other questions for?
I do have one more.
You have one more?
Yeah, I noticed in here you got the streetlight grant for Highway 47.
Mm-hmm.
Is that one we're submitting?
No, it actually is in the process of being closed out. I submitted everything to MoDOT for their review.
Okay.
So they have received all the paperwork. It should hopefully, we should receive notification from them very soon that that has been closed out and they have received everything we need on that.
Is there an opportunity to resupply, to get streetlights on the other side, the deck historical? I mean, that would look great if we had.
At this time, we did not do that because there's no sidewalks completely on the other side. So in the future, if we would have full sidewalks down on the other side, then we may do that because it was considered pedestrian lighting. So since there's no sidewalks there, we could not get that, and this grant will only give us pedestrian lighting.
Could we see, as part of the budget, what it would cost to run sidewalks down the other side? Is one of the capital items potentially? I mean, I think it's a great look for the city as you come in. I think it'd really look good if they were on both sides. It'd really, I mean, a lot of people historically have talked about what it's like to drive into Warrenton. You hear the old stories of the trees and all this stuff. But the lights really do set off a look that's really nice.
Anything else?
No.
Good? Good. All right, I'm ready to move on to bills to ordinance, bill number 14-13.
Call for the first reading of bill number 1413.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Clark, seconded by Alderman Cornell for first reading of bill number 14-13.
An ordinance amending section 230.010 of the municipal code of the city of Warrenton, Missouri regarding alcoholic beverages in parks.
Call for second final reading and passage of bill number 14-13.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Flake, seconded by Alderman Cornell for second and final reading and passage of bill number 14-13.
An ordinance amending section 230.010 of the municipal code of the city of Warrenton, Missouri regarding alcoholic beverages in parks.
Roll call, please.
Alderperson Casterly?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Carried 6-0. Entertain a motion for adjournment if there's no other questions or concerns.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Alderman Flake, seconded by Alderman Cornell to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. We're adjourned.